My name is Jackie Schwiss. I'm a third-year psychology student here at Simmons, and I want to tell you that it does get better. When I was in high school, I had a lot of teasing, even in middle school. I remember one incident. I was in the courtyard. We had like an open courtyard that was closed on all sides by walled-in windows, and me and my girlfriend at the time were out there just sitting on the bench talking. Nothing inappropriate. And some kids saw us through the window, and they started pointing at us, and yelling at us, and we started to get nervous, and they ran over to the door connecting the courtyard to the rest of the building, and they slammed it shut, and they locked it. And they were pounding on the windows and calling us names and like flipping us off and all those bad words you hear, dyke, you know, whatever, yelling at us. And finally, some kid kicked the door and let us back into the building, and I went over to shake his hand and say, hey, thanks, you know, like, appreciate it. Even everybody else is still making a scene, and this one kid goes, ew, you'd actually touch that dyke's hand? That's so fucking gross. Oh my God, I can't believe that. And I turned to him, and I was so angry, and I just wanted to hurt him. And my girlfriend at the time pulled me away, and it's not worth it. And we walked out, and the whole time they followed us out, and they were yelling at us. And like, I just couldn't believe that in my town, my sheltered little town in the Northeast, that people behave like that when I'm doing nothing wrong. I'm just sitting there enjoying the sunny day with somebody that I cared about. And at that point on, I always felt a little bit out of place. And it wasn't until my prom when I walked in and I wasn't wearing a dress and I was being myself. And someone came up to me and shook my hand and said, I want to thank you for being you, and I want to thank you for standing up and not being afraid. And it was only at that moment that I realized that there were people that did care, even though some people in my town were angry and hateful, that other people I knew did care about me and did accept me for who I was. And when I came to Simmons and I got away, I met more people like that. And the first moment I walked in here, when I moved in, I saw people that looked like me and that I could identify with, and I got to meet them and talk to them. And then even people who were different from me that just understood that it was okay. And in my classes, we talked about some of these issues, and you know, an Alliance and the Swag Center and even the rugby team, like nobody cared that you're different or that who you like or who you don't like. And so it does get better. If you hang in there and you trust that there are people who care and ignore the ones who don't, it does get better. My mom and dad like to joke that I was gay like forever, because my mom used to dress me in these little outfits, right? Like my grandma would like hand make a dress with like matching tights and a hat. I was 2, and I'd go, no, hat off, and I'd rip off the hat and throw it on the ground. My parents loved to joke that that's when they like knew something was different. And like, I mean, there's always like tension and butting heads, but like as I got older, like I just thought I was a tomboy. Like that's a really easy label to fit in, and it's something that's acceptable. But the older you get, the less acceptable it gets, and the more you stand out. Like everybody else starts to like, who was a tomboy, like starts to wear girly clothes again or go out on dates, and you don't feel like you're interested in that. And for a while you're angry and confused. And then I used to like really like watching like music videos with the pretty pop stars. And then I realized that not everybody else did that, or like you weren't watching the ones with the boy bands or something. And so eventually you kind of like slowly come to the realization that you're different. And then you tell everyone, oh, well, I might feel this way. And you like test the waters, and then you just have to build up the confidence. And I think it wasn't until high school that I started to build up the confidence to be myself. And then you have to build up the confidence to stand against people telling you you're wrong. So I think it takes time, but I think for me, it really came together in high school and college. I started like telling people that I thought I might feel that way like in the end of 9th grade. And I've actually never dated a guy. I've only dated women. So for me, I was able to figure it out early enough where I wasn't under those pressures. But it was pretty early. Like, I know a lot of people have different stories, but in my experience, like, I always knew I was different. I just didn't know what different meant. And when I came out, it was actually a pretty funny story. I told a lot of my friends, and I was like, but I was so afraid to tell my parents. And my mom was kind of like asking me funny questions, but not quite like dancing around it. And one day, and I was like starting to dress more boyishly and stuff because that's how I feel. That's just how I am and how I present. And one day she found a can of Axe in my room. And she comes up to me and she looks so upset. And she goes, "I found this in your room. Are you a lesbian?" And I was like, "Yes." And we both burst into tears and we cried for like a good 20 minutes. But she told me she wasn't upset. She wasn't angry. She was just worried that my life was going to be harder. And I told her, I don't want it to be harder, and I want to work so that it isn't. And like, I know you guys support me, and I know you don't always understand, but like, you're here for me, and that's huge. And like, it took us a while to get to that point, but like, my family has always been there for me, even if they don't understand, and like, you butt heads with them, but like, I just think that story illustrates that sometimes you just have to come out there and say it, even if it's something silly like a can of Axe or something. Like, there has to be an excuse sometimes, but once you get the conversation out there, it starts to get so much easier and so much better. I think just high school in general, because in my high school, the only people who were out were like in like 10th grade, me, my girlfriend at the time, and one of my best friends who is a gay man and his boyfriend at the time, and it was the four of us. An entire grade of 150 people, and I'm sure there were probably others, but we were the four that were like, we were there, we were out, we were already realized it, and it was hard because I don't think people understood where we were coming from, and that we just wanted to be treated like everyone else. And my school didn't have a GSA. My school didn't have a support system, and actually like last year they tried to get one, and I've been an alum for a couple of years, and a state representative complained and was trying to cut off funding to the school. So without the GSA, without the support network, it was the four of us. Like, and maybe a couple other people who were questioning, but like, we had to be the face of LGBT people at our school. And that's hard, and that's really visible, and you feel like people are always watching, and if you don't measure up, then oh, you're just the stupid queer kid, like. So high school, it was difficult, but I did have a friend group that was supportive. They might not have been queer like me, but they were supportive, they were allies. Like, my best friend in high school was straight at the time. She found out she wasn't, but she was my straight ally at the time, and I really held on to her support. It got me through a lot. So. I would have missed a lot. I would have missed being with my family, and like, I would have missed meeting my girlfriend now in college that's been really supportive for me. And we've been together for a year and almost a year and a half now, and I feel like she really understands me, and I would have missed out on that. And I would have missed out on getting my first like straight A semester in college. Like, that was a huge victory for me. I would have missed out on playing rugby and like getting a huge group of friends that were so supportive, and there were like 30 new family members. And I would have missed out on coming here and learning that it's okay to be different, and no matter what that different means, whether it's, you know, queer or anything else, or trans or whatever, however you want to define it, it's just, it doesn't matter. You have to be yourself, and if you don't learn that, then you miss out. So. I would say hang in there. I'd say talk to people who make you feel better. Ignore the ones who are awful or not supportive or don't understand. Or even if someone doesn't understand, if they're just willing to listen, talk to them. Tell them how you feel. Go online and like watch really funny, like normal, like watch Will and Grace, I don't know, watch something that's positive and makes you happy, or read, get some literature that you can. And just look for your own support that makes you happy, and don't let the things that don't bother you, that don't make you happy, bother you, because it's not as important, and you have to be you. And I learned that even if you try to hide and even if you try to hold it in, you can't. You just have to be yourself and look for the support where you can get it. I would just say that hanging in there and being yourself and knowing that high school isn't everything or middle school isn't everything or whatever you're going through right now, it isn't everything. There's so much more ahead of you. You're a young person and you have a lot of things to discover and you need to give it a shot.